Aka, and I'm co-founder of Quantum Cybersecurity Skills. We are hosting today a webinar on protecting organizations from evolving cybersecurity vulnerabilities with our ecosystem partner Invicti. And Ed Knight has kindly agreed to join us on this webinar. Ed, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Emma. Lovely to be here, and thank you for the invite. So I'm Ed Knight. I'm the director of MSSP practice for Invicti, and Invicti are a leading DAST technology company, and we've been around for over 15 years, and we have a leading MSSP offering that covers our dynamic application security testing, along with our partners, Quantum in this case.
Fantastic. So why we are hosting this webinar, what we are going to cover is probably you're asking, or this was the reason why you subscribed to this webinar. So there are three key points we are going to cover with that today. And we will be looking why vulnerabilities are increasing, what is the market trends, and why you as security leader should care about those changes or the new trends. How managed services can help. What are the opportunities with managed services and what are the limitations? And last but not least, what is multi-layered cybersecurity strategy and how Quantum cybersecurity skills can add business value in this partnership with Invicti. So Ed, this is your first slide. And we are going to run this as a conversation. We don't have too many slides. So yes, Ed, let's start your observations.
Thank you, Emma. So, I mean, really, I wanted to just cover a few bits that we're seeing in the market, and I'm sure you're seeing as well. But just the kind of starting point here is, this is the market analysis report, and really it just highlights some of the growth we're seeing in the industry itself, and we can talk through later some of the driving factors behind that. But just to clarify some of these numbers, 22.8 billion in 2021 to 43.7 by 26 in terms of the growth in this MSSP market. As I said, there's a number of reasons as to why I think that is the case, and it's certainly something that we're seeing a continued trend across the industry. So it's great to kind of get beneath the covers a little bit and talk through maybe why some of these market trends are going in this way, and I'm sure you yourself have experienced and seen a similar pattern too. So I guess from our perspective, this is going to be a continued growth pattern of which we need as industry experts to make sure that we support and work with our valued partners like yourself to make sure that we can add that additional value to our end users to help them navigate their way through this tricky future.
Yes. I agree with you. We observe similar trends, and when we are speaking with the security leaders, more and more focus is on automation, adapting technologies like yourself, because there is only limited hours in a day, and to achieve everything in a manual way is just impossible, and teams need to be prioritizing and focusing on higher criticality. So if technology can resolve some of the pain points in an automated way, this is a great addition to the value-added opportunity for every single business. So would you like to comment anything else on those numbers?
I think it's just worth noting that from our experience, there are several market drivers that are pushing towards these growth numbers, and certainly from what we're seeing at Invicti are many both end users and indeed partners from a reseller perspective coming to us and saying, it's not simply enough anymore to have a licensing solution that that is a point solution, that perhaps we have some slightly smaller teams to run that technology internally. They're asking for help, and we've got several ways in which we can offer that additional support together. But I think that the common theme really is around just having a particular tool. Although that's great and it gives you a good step in the right direction, I think there's some additional help needed through additional partnerships.
Yeah. So let's talk about the risk factors then.
Absolutely. So I guess one of the first questions here is, well, why are we seeing why are we seeing that growth? Why am I saying that perhaps that we're hearing that there's additional support needed, and that there are more challenges in the future when we're looking at these types of solutions. So just to name a few here, this is just what we're seeing kind of front of mind really. And the first and foremost is the continued and additional government regulations that are being applied multi-regions, not just in EMEA but certainly worldwide as well, as we continue to mature our security stance from a global perspective. I think that obviously government regulations and compliance are key to that, which are both a plus and a level of additional protection that are absolutely required, but at the same time they introduce an additional challenge for our end users who need support. There's a lot more going on than there used to be, and the regulations that come along with that, although welcomed, are sometimes challenging to also negotiate and navigate.
Yeah, to what you said, I would like to add a couple of observations as well. So word quantum is not an accident in our business name. We work extremely closely with the international quantum community. And very clear message is coming out of global quantum community. The threat actors, they seem to be on steroids, and more aggressive towards obtaining be it financial data of the customers or healthcare data. Because you touched on word compliance. And if we take an example of, let's say, Cyber Essentials in UK, Cyber Essentials Plus, right? Those are fantastic basic requirements, but the question is it enough for the trends we observe today? They don't really focus, at least in my best knowledge, on what are the cyber threats of today. They purely focus on known cyber threats, right? Which is good. We need to do this. We need to exercise this to excellence every single day. And we are, to be honest, based again on a lot of research, we are not doing, there is a field for improvement, even tackling the cyber threats of today. But what I'm trying to say with this is, compliance is great, legislation is great, but it so doesn't guarantee your business continuity, your cyber resilience. You have to be so proactive. Cybersecurity leaders really are spinning and will need to spin even more plates at the same time in the future because of all the complexities, as you have mentioned, right? Complexities of adding technology, complexities of technology is not always talking to each other. It could be silent complexities, because cybersecurity is not a carved stone. It's always changing. New people coming, people leaving. Someone has added something in on integration part. Here we have technology vulnerability which didn't exist yesterday, and so on. So processes have changed, or someone is not following the processes. It's always ever evolving, this cybersecurity posture. And one of the key partnerships with you, Invicti, is to help customers be on top of the ball in terms of web application, understanding the vulnerabilities, and exercising this on a repeat basis. As you mentioned earlier, the traditional way of knowing and testing your vulnerabilities once a year, even now twice a year, it's a big no-no. But at the same time, again, as you mentioned, businesses operate with smaller teams. Teams are challenged, skills gap. Also, which projects we prioritize. We need to help them with the technology that could help tackle this. Those challenges. So to finish my thought on quantum, when I said the threat actors are on steroids, yes, they are hacking left, right, up and down for the PAI data, healthcare data, put in a safe, decrypt with quantum. That's the mentality we are hearing very loud and clear from recognized global quantum leaders.
Absolutely, and to your point, I think it's prudent to say that there are no magic bullets. Our security posture needs to be layered. It needs to be many different solutions, and ideally, you have key vectors that are covered by leading vendor technologies. But then ideally, again, you either have a large sophisticated team that can wrap all that together and look after it as one, or indeed you partner with a reseller like Quantum, who have the expertise to actually bring that together for you and help you actually make sense of some of that data, remediate the data with you, and take that additional step towards a better security posture moving forward. So I think there's a multitude of different things. To your point, I think I absolutely agree in that regard. I guess some of the other trends that we're seeing that are leading towards, this growing need for, additional support are the complications that are now more relevant for more businesses. Things like, bring your own devices and working from home. That's certainly over the last 2 years has introduced a whole additional space of need, want, and requirement for some of these companies that perhaps not set up for that traditionally, and now and therefore need that additional support in terms of how they're managing their internal data and how they're extending their security stance to cover bringing your own devices and the dynamics that brings, but also the working from home element with your slightly wider network that we're ever growing in that regard.
Yeah. So let's jump in and talk about some numbers. That we are both data driven, I see.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think this goes back to one of the points you previously touched on, and that is increasingly so, and it's frustrating to see, but the increasing reliance on cybersecurity internal IT teams to hold the responsibility of protecting the business with often finite resources, with often limited staff capacity and knowledge base to really assure that they are protecting the business as they're being asked to do so. So with small budgets, relatively small teams, there's a huge responsibility on these organizations to try and keep up to speed, up to date, and on the front foot from a security stance. So if some of these numbers are a little bit scary, a little bit challenging, just in terms of the increase of the number of breaches that we're seeing on a monthly and quarterly basis, that continued trend upwards in terms of the percentage breach increases that we're seeing too. And it's about, for me, how do we help our end users manage all of this onslaught of challenges that they're facing in the security world, and recognize that there's a great deal of dependence on those internal teams to try and mitigate, manage, and remediate some of the breaches and attacks that they see. And I think that it's incumbent on us to work with them to make sure that we're helping them on that path.
Yeah. Again, to extend your thoughts and words, we are what, about 30 team members globally right now. So we are relatively a small team or small organization. However, we are very data driven, and those two numbers. 67% of organizations struggle with the talent retention. Why did I put those in? Because again, to echo what you said before, companies are already being challenged by, in terms of scaling cybersecurity teams, right? I think personally we should be way more ahead. There is so much potential to upskill and scale cybersecurity teams in terms of NOC, in terms of IT ops, IT comms, DevSecOps, and so on. So there is an opportunity, but again, I think it's easier to say than to do, because it's a lot of cultural change that needs to happen. From my experience dealing with, especially with enterprise customers, a lot of departments who could be contributing very nicely to cybersecurity scalability and sustainability are still pretty much tribal. So it's different challenge, as I say, more cultural challenge that needs to happen. But again, what I'm trying to say with those numbers is organizations have small cybersecurity teams who need to achieve a lot, and they are being distracted. They are being distracted by well, as I just mentioned, almost 70% they struggle with the talent. It does take time, on average, I think 8 months, 8 or 9 months to find and on board a security operations analyst, okay? And 75% of global organizations of all sizes, we have received about 400 responses in this survey. They do admit, 75%, that their cybersecurity teams spend way too much time pulling technical reports or doing some other administrative tasks. Again, every minute is key, but at the same time, this is more a call for security leaders. Let's really look at how we are running cybersecurity departments. What could be, what tasks could be allocated more to technology which offers automation, like in Big T technology, in Big T solutions, or other solutions. Again, let's ask straightforward questions and aim to challenge status quo. We might need technical reports, yes, to understand where we stand as an organization from business risk point of view. But maybe a question to ask is how extensive they should be. Should the technical reports maybe give answers to the business? So what are the technical findings? How are they being translated into impact to business, business continuity? What happens if let's say those are top three technical challenges we identified. What is our top focus, which could really stop our business from operating tomorrow, and so on. So so those findings are saying, let's revisit how our security operations are being run, and let's review the processes as well. Maybe there is an opportunity to cut man hours on certain things, and have teams completely focused on the tasks and services which best match their special skills in cybersecurity. And one of the key findings of this survey we did, global SOC survey, is that organizations are thinking too technical. Technical is needed. By technical, we mean they are great at focusing on incident response, on security monitoring, pen testing, vulnerability assessment. But again, when we asked questions, so what are your cybersecurity related concerns and challenges? They gave us completely different responses, and those responses were more related to, as I mentioned, cutting man hours on administrative stuff, also closing the skills gap, and so on. So with this slide, I think what from our side, what we are aiming to say is, let's not distract our already small cybersecurity teams with very talented people, but let's enable them, again, by adopting certain technologies that would help perform tasks quicker through automation. Anything you would like to add, Ed?
Yeah, so I guess from my perspective, it kind of probably breaks down into two key areas. You can buy a leading security tool like Invicti to look at your vulnerabilities, highlight those vulnerabilities, and then put steps in place to remediate them and make sure that you're on the front foot in terms of your security posture moving forward. But that's only half the battle. We make our dashboards very easy to use. They are very very easy to apply and to gain that data. But when the other side of it is when we're talking these types of numbers in the terms of the increase of threat vectors that we're seeing, there comes a point where it's great to have that data, but unless you are able to quickly analyze it and effectively implement it, then that becomes the challenge. And clearly we understand that our end users consume these tools. They invest in these technologies, so we need to assure that they get the absolute most out of them. And sometimes that means that we are offering additional services to help them cope with that increased workload. Because I do think it's two parts of the story there, and we can certainly help with both, certainly in the types of partnerships that we're talking about now.
Fantastic. Okay, let's jump into a few more slides, a few more graphs, I meant.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So this one really is talking through, this is another Accenture report, and it's showing the threat vectors. So when we talk through and we're saying, hey, cyber attacks are increasing by X%, and breaches are increasing, and the the compliance and complexities around managing that whole process is complicated and difficult. Here, what we're showing is actually, if you look at all the attack vectors and the way in which these threat actors are infiltrating our systems, one of the top, if not the top, in most cases is applications and vulnerabilities within those applications. So when we look at and we think about how can I best use the finite resources I have? Where do I invest my money? Where do we invest as a business to make sure that we are, addressing the most obvious points of exposure in the most efficient manner? Well, that's absolutely via data breaches via web applications, which are primarily applications with vulnerabilities and gaps in that technology. And we very much help point out what those are and where they are, and then instruct what to do to close those gaps as quickly and effectively as possible.
Yeah. No, you're right. Okay. So let's again talk about impacts of those vulnerabilities to business, about the factors.
Yeah, absolutely, and some of these can be significant, right? I mean, you're talking general financial losses or losses in productivity, but also things like reputational damage. It only takes a major breach to undo multiple lines of investment, perhaps over years, with the business, to compromise your own reputation, and damage it in significant ways, and that can be as simple as not having the foresight to look at your security within your network and making sure that you are proactively addressing some of the challenges that are ahead. There's a multitude of gaps in any network, and we point them out. We help you see what they are, and to put relatively simple steps in place actually to get ahead of it and close those gaps before they are a problem and before they lead to things like reputational damage or indeed legal liabilities, if you're dealing with PCI compliance or other personal information in that regard, which again leads to compliance and GDPR and some of the ICO regulations around that too. They are only increasing in terms of, as I said before, their complexity, and indeed the fines associated if you are not compliant or working in a particular manner. So I think there's a multitude of risk factors here, and most of them I'm sure you guys would be aware of, but it only takes one or two of these to really make quite a significant impact in the business. And on the flip side, in order to avoid a lot of these, it is relatively quite simple in lots of cases. We can do the simple things well, and we can absolutely help you, do those simple things well by implementing the technology or some of the types of technologies we've touched on, but then also using the expertise of partners like Quantum in terms of that advice and remediation of some of those actions.
I couldn't agree more with you, Ed, on literally every word you just said. And based on my experience, the larger the organization, again, my experience is over 10 years working with enterprise level organizations. So they do care a lot about reputational risk, because, those businesses are 50, hundreds, over 100 years old, so trust, reputation is on top of their list. But I also wanted to add, the businesses I observe care more and more about their reputation as an employer. Do they attract and retain top cybersecurity talent? Again, top cybersecurity talent is joining those organizations through internal recommendations. So obviously, if someone is going to observe from cybersecurity team, we never test our processes. We have no idea, of what processes are critical to our organization. Are we going to have a business downtime of 6 days or more if incident level 2 strikes, or we are okay to hold with incident level 3 or 4, the most critical one. So it's all about fine-tuning those aspects as well. And As you said, rightly said, a very good medicine also written, there was a very good article written by Gartner saying, and also echoed in Deloitte and Accenture, many other reports, saying the best medicine is consistency and doing simple things right, in order to prevent big business impact. Again, we cannot be naive, on the game is sort of unfair. The threat actors have all the time on the planet to be opportunistic and keep trying. There is only one failure that needs to happen and the organization will be in trouble, although the team's already being stretched and so on. But having said it, there is always a room for improvement in whatever we do. Simply optimizing and understanding 360 degrees cybersecurity posture. Again, what we are observing, a lot of focus is on technology risk, which is the right place to start. Not so much is on tactical, which is processes, as we mentioned. And the strategical is picking up with the training, upskilling. But again, everything could be improved. So anything else to add on this one?
I guess the closing thought here for me would be, when we think about the simple things, right, as we said, the simple things to do right, it's not necessarily often that we don't know what to do, or we don't have the tools or the technology to enable us to do what to do. It often is a workload thing. You're inundated with challenges, with tasks, with projects, and it's all coming through to the central point. And sometimes it's easy to not do the simple things, which is where you need that additional support of a service, which is where you need the additional expertise to say, hey, you know what? If we have finite amount of services, let's really focus on this bit, because this is going to make the biggest impact, by the way. So, it's I think it's really evident that from what we're seeing in the market, that sure, we know what to do a lot of the times, we just don't have the capacity to do it. My team's small, we are focused on this right now, so this is the fire in which we're putting out. Whereas, you could potentially be leaving yourself equally as exposed in some other areas by not doing those simple things. And I guess the scale and scope that services in the way in which we're describing help in this regard it gives you that additional coverage, it gives you that additional breadth of security that is so critical in some of the areas in which we've touched.
And also, business tolerance, the tolerance of business risks, what is okay and what is not okay for every organization is different. Again, some organizations could say, hey, we don't focus on this. We can take the hit, while for the other businesses, it would be critical for business survival. If they don't rightly assess the risk tolerance. Okay. So I have prepared a couple of slides to better explain what is the DNA of quantum cybersecurity skills. And so this is our third and final point that we're going to cover, a multi-layered approach to improve vulnerability mitigation. So we believe that every business has an opportunity to optimize existing cybersecurity strategies they have. As again, I mentioned earlier, many organizations are executing operational level fantastically. we say operational layer of business management includes IT sources, and we call it penetration resilience layer. However, tactical, there is definitely a gap for improvement. We observe in many projects of ours where we help organizations to fine-tune business impact limitation. It could be anything. It could be starting from with the network segregation. Usually, it's a place. Many security leaders say maybe we shouldn't be going there, but it's needed. It's critical. So how do we limit and restrict when threat actors enter our networks, our infrastructure? How we can restrict the damage is the thought at tactical level cybersecurity strategy. And talking about strategic level, which we say people make decisions in the organization. So it's relating to business continuity, having accurate data to make those decisions, because the data could be blurred. And I'll talk more about this in the next slides. So cybersecurity at all management layers. So top layer is here operational, and we are talking here about servers, endpoints, security platforms, also cloud, everything that can be covered as IT sources. Okay, and in the second layer we have tactical elements. Again, this includes security monitoring, threat intelligence processes, incident response processes. Now, how those two are communicating? Obviously, obviously technology is generating data. We need to really focus on data management quality here. Because too much data will lead into alert fatigue, again, stretching your security operations teams, even demotivating, because they will say, hey, we are not able to cope with so much data. It's just have no coverage, and certain aspects might be overlooked. So technology generate data, and from here, we have impact on the processes. Again, how those processes are useful to us. Is the security monitoring incident response because of the data accuracy? Is it, again, blurred or not blurred? Do we need to fine tune? And what we observe is starting to get very popular is third-party opinion. So organizations have invested a lot of resources, a lot of time. They have achieved their security operations goals, and now they want third-party opinion. Usually, we are involved in those projects. Just independent, not auditor but assessor coming in and evaluating and providing a report with observations and recommendations in terms of what still could be improved. Okay, so at final layer, strategical layer, we have people, and as I say, it's not just people, their skills, talents, knowledge gap, but also the decision making. Some of the let's say people titles, let's say SOC analyst level 1, 2, 3, are mostly engaged at operational layer. Okay, they are looking for those threats, managing those threats. Security managers are often involved in tactical processes, fine-tuning fine-tuning processes, simplifying, ensuring they are not too long, not too complex, but just right to achieve the results. And CXOs, those are decision makers, are the ones who will be making the decisions from the information, from the data that is converted into actionable information at those top two layers, operational and tactical layers. So it's interlinked. What we are saying, cybersecurity is woven in, and it's very interlinked, and it needs to be driven equally at all levels. Because if we focus just on one level, obviously we will see, and we are already observing based on our global SOC global SOC survey, that organizations are struggling at tactical and strategical layers. So what are the most common symptoms? What are those silent pains? Again, at operational layer, we say, hey, data saturation, misuse of tools, integration of tools. Again, talking about web application, I think you will agree with me, at API is really picking up in terms of web application, well, amongst web application vulnerabilities.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the importance of making the most out of your capital investment in any technology and or service is to assure that actually, you know, I have as many of those cogs working together as possible. You know, we need that breadth of security across the organization, as you've highlighted here. And in order to do that, we need to make sure that all of our technologies that that our valued customers are investing in, as many of them as possible, talk to each other, share information, share that data, and share the associated actions too, because they will only become more powerful by bouncing off each other and learning from each other and taking relevant data feeds from certain areas of other investment and invested technologies. And that is the way forward. That is the way in which we can get that breadth of security across the industry and across the organization. So the move towards more integrated solutions, the move to more open APIs, and to working with partners who can make that happen and can put that together is absolutely critical moving forward, I think.
Fantastic. Thank you for your contribution here. So let me continue explaining. So again, at tactical layer, the silent pains are usually the bottlenecks in the processes, which as I mentioned before, too much data, not enough data could lead to poor reports, too much man hours spent on generating those reports. Again, those are processes. Let's dive into them. Let's not close our eyes. You know, they are pretty critical and important for the whole cybersecurity ecosystem. And the strategical point, as I mentioned, people make decisions. So the silent pains. Again, it's very interesting to see the latest projects we're involved. Leadership is asking us to run survey within their teams to evaluate effectiveness of leadership. Obviously, we're doing it in anonymous way. Otherwise, people could be not so open. But it's effectiveness of leadership. Leadership is looking also now into is my team feeling what is the well-being of my cybersecurity team? What is the work-life balance? Are they happy with this? You know, obviously the business is aiming to prevent talent churn, or if employees feel their skills are not being optimized, obviously stagnation of talent, there are no winners here. Employee will simply leave for other organization, and the employer will be spending 8 or 9 months finding and onboarding the new person, and if we are not tackling this challenge, it's a repeat process, just wasting productivity and effectiveness. So cybersecurity is business agility, is what we are saying, if it's rightly implemented. And what do we mean by that? So again, at data level, operational level, we say, if we have fine-tuned the data just to the right level to meet the compliance requirements and meet business security goals, we can extract and exploit events faster, at higher quality, faster detection, faster mitigation. Again, processes which at tactical layer we say, hey, it's an information. We will have a better picture of security posture. We will be able to identify risks. And as I mentioned, technology risk is critical, but it's not just technology risk, it's internal risk, as I say, relating to human risk, relating to processes, you name it. And at the decision-making level, strategical level, again, I would like to share one example. So once this level is fully fine-tuned, you can take full advantage of security services, which are aligned to business. We had a case, we have helped identify this challenge for one of top 5 UK financial services, which had fantastic budgets and were leading really innovative cybersecurity initiatives. However, it's like shadow IT, CISO didn't even know that one of the business units were completely detached from driven cybersecurity initiatives, and they were bending corners in many aspects, where organization, where CISO office says this is a big no-no. Let's say sending PII, personally identifiable information, through non-encrypted email, or bending cybersecurity strategies in other ways. So this is the big risk of of not being on top of the ball when it comes to cybersecurity initiative alignment to ever-changing business needs. And how do you assess it? Again, we help in those projects for the business to understand through a number of surveys and so on. But it is critical, because you can think from one perspective. Hey, I'm doing all things right from cybersecurity. What's expected of me as a CISO, CIO, CTO, risk and compliance manager. But the big question is, what is the deviation? How do we measure the deviation with the business needs, business alignment of those cybersecurity initiatives? So this is one of the areas, again, we step in to help the businesses. And so just a couple of more slides. How do we achieve it? So we link operational layer to main question, what are we talking here about? So we are talking about technology and data management. At tactical layer, we pose the main question, how we achieve it. We achieve it through fine-tuning the processes. We improve cybersecurity visibility through continuous security posture assessments, and meeting compliance requirements. And at strategical level, we ask the question why. So why this is important? So the people, the decision makers can make the right decisions. So we can have accurate, actionable information, and to avoid business, to improve business continuity, we need to ensure that cybersecurity strategies are aligned to business needs. And to finalize, so what do? We offer three levels of services. At proactive security support, we offer managed detection and response services, with included threat intelligence and incident response. We help organizations by working as extended hands to run their test, breach and attack simulations, and other security assessments. We deliver penetration testing, vulnerability assessments, and help to fine-tune technology like SIM, EDR. So data that is being generated is accurate data. So in terms of reactive security supports, we offer incident response. As I say, this is included in our MDR service, but is also available as a separate service. Digital forensics, a part of our MDR service as well, and malicious code analysis. And under continuous improvement, what we do is we usually come in as this independent third-party experts to assess, is our SOC team ready to respond and identify incidents effectively? What is our cybersecurity maturity and projects? What is our compliance? Do we need to compliance assessment? Do we need to fine tune anything to pass audit successfully? And we offer the trainings as well to red team, blue team, and threat intelligence team, you name it. So the next step, with kind agreement of ads team, Invicti team, every participant of this webinar will be invited, is eligible to free scan of web application vulnerabilities using the Invicti solution. However, we have a deadline for it, which is 18th of April. So if you like to qualify for this, please drop us a quick email at sales@quantumcybersecurityskills.com, and we'll take your request from there. So Ed, from my point of view, I don't know, do you have any closing thoughts, anything you would like to share as final step in of this webinar?
No, thank you, Emma. I think it's been a really interesting session for me. It's been a great opportunity for me to share some of the things that we're seeing in the industry and some of the feedback that we're receiving from our end users and indeed our partners along this kind of service-led requirement path. It's great to see that the breadth and scope of services and support that you can offer within Quantum as well. So I'm sure there'll be interest in looking to partner with you in terms of adopting some of those expertise that you've gone through. So no, look, thank you for having me here. Thank you for everyone else attending. As I said, I find it very insightful and useful to see some of the capabilities of a great partner like Quantum. So thank you again, and it's lovely to be here.
Thank you so much, Ed. And I hope everyone enjoyed the webinar. Thank you.